As we jump into a new year, it's important that we get our head on straight and we position ourselves to be as productive as we possibly can in order to ensure that this year is the best it can be for us as leaders, as volunteers as well, but most importantly for us as a church. And why is that? Because what we do impacts people's lives for eternity. People are what's most important. People matter to God. Our productivity has an impact on people. We have to take this very seriously. So today, we're going to share with you 3 things that we do to go out with the old and in with the new at the beginning of each new year to position ourselves to be as productive as possible. You ready? Let's do this. Welcome to the Small Town Big Church Leadership Podcast, a place where pastors, church leaders, and volunteers can grow themselves and the local church. We're pastors Brad and Misty Hilton, church planters in rural America.
So the first thing we do as a church is we evaluate. At the beginning of the year, it's a great time to survey what you do and why you do it. Whether you're a pastor or a volunteer, we should constantly be evaluating what we're doing. Like, I want you to think about a compass, okay? A compass points north, and true north in any organization is your mission statement. It's why you exist. And at Mountain Movers, we exist to lead people into a real and a life-changing relationship with Jesus that's contagious. But it's easy over time to add in new things and new programs and evolve in things that we're doing. And so one of the things that we like to do at the beginning of every year is to review the year's calendar before. And we really do it with one thing in mind. What events or outreach or programs even that we were doing this year brought the greatest return on our investment, the ROI. Because our mission is to see lives change. That is people coming to know Christ, people growing in their faith. We're not just throwing events and spending money and having services every weekend just because we love the aspect of having, people get together or having a social club. That's not why we do it. We do it for life change. And so as we look through the calendar, we'll start in January, we'll go all the way through December, and we'll literally look back how many people got saved at that event, how many people's lives were impacted at that event, okay? And then we really look at what did it cost us? And is it worth putting it back on the calendar this new year? So you have to have that compass, if you will, in range. Because here's the thing. There are events and programs and things that we do that we may have done for a very long time, and it used to work.
Yeah.
And then there comes a point when you're asking yourself these questions. What is the return on investment for this particular thing on the calendar? You have to answer that. And when you do, even if you love it yourself, you may need to do the second thing that we do, and that is eliminate.
Yeah, eliminating is something that we have done quite a lot throughout the years. And you can't be afraid to cut something or scrap it just because you've been doing it for a long time, like you said. Our human nature, we like routine and we like tradition. I like tradition.
We get comfortable.
And we get comfortable. And it could be because there was a time that what you were doing was really effective, or maybe it was really even meaningful to you or the church family. But the reality is things change. The way people want to do church changes. Our culture changes. And at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves if something we've been doing is still pointing us towards our mission and bringing a good return on our investment and our time and our resources specifically.
Absolutely.
So this means we need to be adaptable. We need to be willing to do things differently than we did before in order to keep the attitude of the organizational plane, if you will, headed towards our destination with steady acceleration, constantly moving forward, moving that plane as fast as we can, because Jesus is coming back. Heaven is our home, and we need to get as many people there as we possibly can. This means that there's nothing we do when it comes to the way we do church that is exempt from the chopping block. Right? We're talking about method here. Remember, not mission.
Right.
Talking about method. The mission never changes.
The message never changes.
But our
the
methods
method has to change.
are always
has
changing.
to evolve.
That's our policies, our programs, our styles, our operations.
The events we do.
The employee handbook, positions that we hire for,
Yes.
volunteer positions, even entire ministries sometimes. All these things are subject to change.
Yes.
And can be eliminated at any given time in the name of effectiveness and ROI for the kingdom.
Right.
So here's two examples. A few things that just come to mind. The first that comes to mind is years ago, we used to take our 7 to 9-year-olds to camp. And what we realized over time is that we weren't really getting as many parents to register their littles for this particular camp as we had hoped. It was a little too far for comfort, and we would always have a few little ones who would really get homesick. So we just stopped offering that camp as an option.
Right.
And in some instances, when you cut something, it just needs to be cut and you walk away from it. But in other instances, there may need to be an alternative. And this was one of those instances where we realized, okay, we can offer something different, and we need to offer something different because these littles deserve a great camp experience. So our kids pastors took on offering a one-night lock-in type experience on our church campus instead. And it's proven to be a huge success. We're probably seeing 5 times
absolutely.
the kids participating than we ever would have seen jump on a bus and go 5 hours to camp.
And you know what's crazy about it is that we loved that camp. So personally, as pastors, we loved the camp. So this was a tough decision. So there are going to be things that you're going to have to look at, and you yourself may be invested in it, and you're like, I really like that. I really enjoy that. Or your volunteers, you're going to know that, man, you're going to disappoint some people. But it is about the mission. At the end of the day, how many people's lives are being changed, and can you do something different to make a greater impact? Another thing that we did this year, we are conference junkies, okay?
Yes, we are.
We are about getting people to the big event. And this year, there was one conference that had been on our calendar for years and years. And this year in 2025, we decided we're going to eliminate that one.
Got it.
The ROI just wasn't making sense. Especially when you're looking at it, the larger your church grows, if you are promoting an event for the entire organization, it has to make sense with the time, with the money, all of that, and the life change that's coming as a result.
Right.
So it might be something that you and I love, Brad, and we might want to go, or the staff might want to go, but it's just not something we need to promote for the entire church.
But you have to abandon that sort of thinking and think bigger than yourself. Think bigger than how this affects me.
Set your emotions
aside.
It really comes down to, these are not emotional
what is
decisions.
Best for the church?
And at the end of the day, where are people getting saved?
Right.
Where are they getting fired up? Are they going to come back from, especially if it was like a conference, is it going to make a massive impact when they get back into your church and your community? And so you've got to set your emotions aside.
And I think this is why a lot of rural churches fight to see real growth happen in their churches, is because we are all so committed to tradition and the things that are meaningful to us, the things that we love, the things that we hold dear to our hearts. We have to make a choice. What are we going to hold on to? Are we going to hold on to those things and stay small, or are we going to let go of the things that we love for the bigger picture to be able to reach more people for Christ and watch our rural churches grow?
Right. And that really even comes down to things like the number of services you do, or the times in which you do those services. Maybe you do Sunday night, and maybe that's just not working anymore, or maybe, like for us, there was a time when we did, different types of services on Sunday morning. The length of our services have changed as we added additional services. Midweek. Who in the world does midweek on Tuesday night?
Tuesday nights.
Well, we do now.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
We're even thinking about Thursdays.
Exactly.
Right now.
Because at the end of the day, you've got to realize that if you're not careful, you can get in a rut, and you don't mean to. But the longer you do something, it's like the deeper the groove gets. And if it's working, oh my gosh, if people are getting saved, keep doing it. Okay? That's the main thing. But if they're not, and you're not seeing the return on the investment for the time and the money, all the volunteer power it takes, then again, you have to make the tough decision.
Yeah.
And really, it comes down to leadership, okay? We're talking senior pastors. It's going to come down to you. Some things, even your leaders, your staff are going to come to you and say, I don't know, like, what do you think? We really love it. And you have to be the leader, and you have to make the tough decisions and just say, you know what? I don't think we do it again this year.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this. There are times that you will eliminate something and you might bring it back later at a new season.
Maybe the timing isn't right.
Okay? And so that brings us then to the third thing that we all have to do after we've evaluated and after we have eliminated. We have to acclimate. What do I mean by acclimate? Well, the definition of acclimate is this. It's to become accustomed to a new climate or to new conditions. And if that does not define the attitude of those who are a part of a growing church, I don't know what does. With every season of growth, guys, comes change, and we have to quickly shift our mindset, and we have to acclimate to that change. Now, listen, not everybody likes change, all right? I don't necessarily love change, although people that lead, people that are under us probably would think we do. Change is hard.
Say, are you sure about that?
It's uncomfortable, all right? But it's a necessary part of growth.
Oh,
if you want to see your church grow, you have got to embrace the growth cycle. It's change, conflict, and growth. And you're going to see this cycle over and over again. Listen, as leaders and volunteers, you've got to keep your eyes focused on the mission. What is the main thing? Why do we do what we do? And when we make a change, we got to pivot fast. And then as a volunteer, listen, you may love something that you guys have been doing in your church, and the leadership feels like it's time to eliminate. That's tough. But if you are going to come under the mission, and you are going to stay in alignment.
And you need to.
With the vision, exactly. And you need to. If God has called you there, you need to. Then you've got to just acclimate quickly. You've got to realize, listen, my pastors and my leadership team, they are all about life change. And who doesn't want to be a part of a church where life change is happening?
Lives are being changed.
Where people are saying yes to Jesus, where they are being delivered and set free. I mean, come on, guys. That's why we went into ministry. Pastors, that's why you said yes to the call when God placed it on your heart. And at the end of the day, sometimes we get in a rut and we start doing these things and we are just getting ready for Sunday, or we're just getting ready for the midweek. And it's like one more service, one more day, one more message, two more songs. Listen, God is so much bigger than that.
Yes.
And we believe that time is running out. Jesus is coming back, and we need to win our communities for Christ. We need to win our world, and that is going to take some tough calls on leadership's part. But once those calls are made, guys, we all have to get into alignment. It's like a coach with a team. When things need to change because a coach says, hey, we're going to go a different direction, we're going to try a new play, even though you love the way it used to be and you knew all the old plays and you were comfortable with the old plays, if they're not working, you got to shift.
You got to do something
Why?
different.
Because you want to win.
Yeah.
And so when the coach says we're shifting, you either have to shift or you kind of get left behind, right? And so I would just encourage you as volunteers, as staff, pray and say, God, help me in this new year as changes come down the pike to be quick to acclimate, to shift, to pivot, and have a great attitude and say, man, I am behind the vision of my pastors. I am behind the vision of a life change. I want to be a part. I don't want to get stuck in a rut. I want to be a part of that bigger
That's so good.
picture.
That's so good. Well, we hope today's content has been a blessing to you. If it has, we want to encourage you to please share it and get it out there. If you know any rural pastors, church leaders, staff members, volunteers, we would love to see the same supernatural growth that God has blessed us with in those churches as well.
Yeah.
And so do us a favor, get that content out there today. God bless you. And guess what? We're going to see you next time.